Does your school have one of those intercom systems? You know what I'm talking about? It was like, beep, and we have an announcement to make. Okay, that kind of thing. Did they do that? Did they ever like use it to call people out of the classroom? Some of you are saying no. Some of you are saying, okay. Well, now they have phones. Okay, well, when I was in school, we didn't have cell phones. Well, a couple people did, only the rich kids. But so they would, you're like, what? We lived without phones. It was crazy. So they would go like, burp, can you please send this person to the front office, this person to the front? It's like that. So they would do it to individual classrooms and stuff like that. So I'm sitting in my it's calculus class. I'm a senior. So I'm in calculus, and I'm sitting in there, and they go, Miss Alexander, could you please send Jonathan Hill to the office? She's like, yes. Thank you. And so I'm like, I'll go to the office. Now, when you go to the office, why do you get called to the office usually? You're in trouble. Yeah, and I had been in trouble, called to the office once before in kindergarten. It was the last time I was ever in trouble. It was because I looked right at my teacher. She told me to do something, and I said, no. Shut up. And I just ran off. And I knew the second I said shut up, I was in trouble, okay? But I had said it. It was too late. So that was the last time. So now I'm called to the principal's office. I'm a senior. And I'm walking down the hall, and I'm thinking, I'm not in trouble. I mean, okay, I had a couple things. I was voted teacher's pet, first of all, okay? I mean, like it's in the yearbook, teacher's pet. That was me. So everybody knew that teachers liked me. One of my nicknames was Golden Boy, which is a terrible nickname, but it was because they said everything you touch turns to gold. You can't do anything wrong. All the teachers like you. And when I was class president, I was second in my class. I'm literally walking to the principal's office thinking, they're going to give me an award for something. This is probably what this is. It's an award. I just figured it was going to be good. So I get there and I open up, and there's Miss Parrish. She's the secretary. Miss Parrish is my friend's mom. I've been to her house. So I'm like, hey, Miss Parrish. And she's going, I'm like, uh-oh. This is not a you're in getting an award face. And I was like, hi. And she goes, and I was like, okay. I just walk into this room. And, well, it wasn't a counselor. It wasn't a vice principal. It wasn't even the principal. It was the police waiting for me. And I'm like, I walk in the room. I'm like, I got to be in the wrong room. And they go, are you Jonathan Hill? I was like, oh, no. He's like, have a seat. Oh, I said yes. I mean, I'm thinking, oh no, but I said yes. And so I sit down, and my brain is like going 100 miles an hour at this point. I'm like, somebody put drugs in my car. Like one of the losers put drugs in my car. No, the losers. Okay, if you're a loser, stop being a loser, and then we'll call you that. So, but, they were the losers, and I was like, did they put drugs in my car? Because they don't like me or something. I don't know. But that wasn't what happened. And so he goes on and he asks me if I passed the school bus that morning. And when school buses stop, they have that little stop sign that comes out. You know what I'm talking about? And you can't pass them. They can be on the total side of the road. There's nobody crossing the road. It doesn't matter. You have to sit and wait. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. So I would wait and I would watch that stop sign, right? And the second it went, whoa! I was like around as fast. I mean, I literally pedal all the way to the floor. That's how 16-year-olds drive, or 18, I guess, at the time. And so I'm like, flew right past. But the stop sign was closing when I went around, okay? Well, the bus driver didn't like that, got my license plate, called the police. The police looked at my license plate, found out what school I went to, showed up at my school, found out I was in calculus, and had me come to the office to get me in trouble. Have you ever been in trouble? Never, I am perfect. Okay, yes, you've been in trouble. We've all been in trouble, okay? You've done things, okay? It's simple to get in trouble. Your parents said don't, you did, and so what happened? Trouble, okay? You got in trouble. You knew you should study for the test. You knew you should, right? But come on, I've got to watch at least 5 episodes tonight. I mean, it's so hard when you've got to catch up. Everybody else has already seen it. And so you got in trouble because you didn't study. You knew what you should do, but you didn't. Or, you said something to a friend that you didn't, and you got in trouble with your friend. We've all been in trouble. We've all done something that got us in trouble. My wife pretty much never got in trouble when she was a kid. The only thing she ever got grounded for was not cleaning her room. Anybody else have that problem? You okay? Yeah. And anytime she got grounded, it was always she didn't clean her room and she got in trouble. And so you still get in trouble, by the way, when you're older. It's just different. You can get in trouble from your boss, in trouble from your spouse. You can still get in trouble. The IRS, I don't know. But We still get in trouble even then. So we've all been in trouble. Now, when I say in trouble, when you say you're in trouble, it usually means you did something wrong and now you're in trouble. That's usually the way we use that. But we encounter trouble in another way. You might say that you have trouble, like some trouble happened to you. Or, in fact, you probably even know somebody that when they walk in the room, it's trouble. Y'all know what I'm talking about? You have somebody like that. Just look at the person next to you and say, I knew you were trouble when you walked in. Trouble, trouble. Oh, come on, you know you were thinking Taylor Swift. Okay. Trouble. You know people, you've experienced this. Okay, maybe you have that person in your life and trouble just follows them everywhere they go. Everywhere they're walking, there's trouble right behind them, and it's always drama. You know that person that is either mad or crying every day. It's like, why are you either mad or crying? And every time you're around them, somebody's mad and everybody's crying. And they're just trouble, right? They're trouble in your life. Or there's that person who your parents are like, you are not hanging out with them because what happens when you're with them? Trouble. They're always bringing trouble. So there's people that bring trouble. And then sometimes trouble just happens and it's nothing that you did wrong, it just happens. I mean, you got the iPhone case that is life-proof. It is waterproof, break-proof, all the proof. You drop it from 1 foot from the ground and your screen goes like 1,000. Anybody ever had something like that? Trouble. Some of your screens are broken right now. Okay. Trouble comes. I've done this. Studied so hard for the test. Studied. Wrong chapter. Trouble. Trouble. Okay, that's the worst. Trouble. I didn't even mean to. It just happens. Okay, trouble. Sometimes just, I don't know, all kinds of things. You lose a document, you have all this stuff. Sometimes just trouble comes. Sometimes your friends are your trouble, right? Everybody else got included, you didn't. They ignored you, whatever. You got trouble. Most of what I'm talking about is kind of down here troubles, silly troubles. Then you sometimes have the big level troubles that come. Your parents have been fighting, and finally one of them just left. Now that's trouble, right? Some of you, you've carried that trouble, you've had that trouble. You find out somebody that you love is sick, that's trouble. When you are, in some really bad situation, and you would say, I have trouble. All of you have trouble. All of you have carried trouble, have trouble. Maybe you don't have it right now, but you've had it, and guess what? You will have trouble. And for some reason, people think, oh, well, if you're a Christian, you're not supposed to have trouble. So if I have trouble, then I'm doing it wrong. Wrong. No, that's not true. Okay, being a Christian does not mean life is puppy dogs and rainbows. Oh, yay. All the rest of your life. That's not what it means. In fact, I can prove it to you because who gets to say what Christianity is? Christ, right? Jesus. And this is what Jesus said about your life. Okay, this is Jesus talking in John, the book of John. Jesus says this. In this world, you will have what? Trouble. Just straight up. In this world, you're going to have trouble, and you are in this world. Now, this is not the message, but someday you won't be in this world, right? You're going to go on, and there will be no trouble in heaven. But now we have trouble, okay? We have trouble now, and it's just the way it is. And now we can do things to avoid certain troubles. I mean, there's sometimes when you got into trouble, you could have not gotten into trouble if you would have done something more smart. But in this world, you're going to have trouble. And then he says this, but take heart, I have overcome the world. Take heart. Another translation says it like this: take courage. Take courage, like have courage. What they're saying is you can be strong even in trouble. You can have peace even in trouble. You can experience good in your life even in trouble. What if in the middle of your next biggest trouble, you had peace? What if in the middle of your next biggest trouble, you didn't lay down at night overwhelmed? What if in your next biggest trouble, you had courage and you felt strong in that? You can be, and that's what Jesus wants us to know. And then he just says, take courage. Now, have you ever had someone tell you, like, don't be afraid? Did it help? No. Anybody scared of roller coasters? Roller coaster scaredies? Okay, yeah. I was that way. And my friends would say, dude, just do it. It's not scary. Oh, okay, then I no longer have my fear of falling off and dying. No, it didn't help at all. Okay, it didn't help at all. Don't be afraid. If I came up right now, and who's scared of spiders? Spiders? Yeah. Or if I came up with a huge, tarantula right now, and I was like, don't worry, it's harmless. Don't be afraid. Some of you girls would be screaming, running out of the room, I'm never going back to that church, okay? Yeah, because just telling you don't be afraid isn't going to help. And then he just goes, hey, take courage. Hey, take courage. Oh, okay. I'm better now. And that doesn't really help, does it? When I was about 6, I can't remember the exact age, about 6, I took swimming lessons at the swimming pool on Summercrest. You know what I'm talking about? That little one there? Okay. Yeah, the Summercrest pool. And it was a long time ago, but I took my swimming lessons there and, learned how to swim in the shallow end first, and they do all that. And finally, it was the time to go to the deep end. Okay, the shallow end you can touch, the deep end is where you die. At least that's what I thought, because deep is death. And so I was like, I'm not going over there. And they, the lifeguard who's giving me lessons is talking to me, and finally, he's like, we're going to jump off the diving board. And so he would walk up over onto the diving board, and he's standing on the side of the pool, and I walk all the way to the edge. And I walk straight back. And so he goes, okay, I'll get in. So he gets in the water, he swims out, I walk back out. He's right there. He's like, you can jump, I'll be right here, I'll help you. No. And I run back off, and I come up. He's like, so he gets out, and he talks to me. Take courage. Don't be afraid. It's okay. I'll be right here. I'm not going to help you. And so he gets back in, and I go to the end of the, and I walk. And so in and out of the pool we go for a while, okay? Just him trying to convince me. And finally he goes, okay, I'm going to come out on the diving board with you. And my little brain goes, he's going to throw you in. And so he goes, I'll go out on the diving board with you. I ran as fast as 6-year-old legs can run. And the other lifeguards are going, beep, beep, no running. And I'm like, he's going to kill me. I can run if I want to. And so I'm running. And finally I run over to my parents. And my dad's like, you got to go in. But actually what he did is my dad then takes me over. He puts me on the diving board, and he jumps in the pool. And he swims over. Now, this is not some kid I never met. This is my dad, right? And so I walk out, and I look, and there's my dad, and I jump in. Right? I jumped in because when I saw him, I wasn't afraid. It was about who, not about what. There was still a deep end that I still was afraid of, but instead there was my dad who I had courage in, who I had trust in, I had faith in, right? I had faith in him, and so then I could have courage. And so when he says take courage, that's why he doesn't stop. And the most important thing in this entire thing is this next one right here, I. Little bitty I, but it's Jesus. He says, take courage, me, Jesus, I have overcome the world. And the reason you can have courage is because of him. I was standing on the diving board looking at the deep end, and what I looked at was my dad. I didn't know how to swim right, but he did. And you may be going, well, I don't know how to handle this thing with my parents, but I trust that he does. I don't know how that a person can be happy when this is going on in their life, but he does. I don't know how this is going to work out, but you do. And so I'm going to have courage and keep going. I'm going to be strong in the middle of this and keep going. When we focus on him, then we can have courage. So there's another story. Since we're talking about jumping into water, I'm going to show you another story about somebody going into water, so this time in the Bible. And I'll just pick it right up because it has to do with Jesus and water and all that, just like we were talking about. So there was a boat, and the disciples were in it. The boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by waves because the wind was against it. So we're in a boat, lots of wind, lots of waves, and then Jesus is not on the boat, okay, just the disciples. And then this happens. During the 4th watch of the night, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake, which you really don't have to be scared to jump off the diving board if the guy can walk on water, all right? I mean, that's just pretty cool. And I don't know if he was going up and down with the waves or he stayed level. I've always wondered, was the water hard or was it squishy? I don't know. Anyways, I got lots of questions. So I really want to know. Could he skate on it? Was it slippery like ice? I don't know. I got lots of questions. Okay, when the disciples, I just see Jesus anyways, when the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. It's a ghost. They said, the disciples believed in ghosts. I'm like, y'all are stupid. All right, it's a ghost, they said, and they cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, take courage. Same thing we read a while ago. Take courage. It is I. Why are you going to take courage? Because it's me. You don't have to be afraid when it's me. Do not be afraid. Lord, if it's you, Peter replied, tell me to come out on the water with you. Which, if you can explain to me later how that proves it's Jesus, I would be curious to know. It's like, well, if it's you, call me out. What the ghost could have been like, come on, watch you sink. Okay, anyways, come, he said. So Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus, which is pretty cool. He also got to walk on water. But when he saw, say Saul. Say Saul. Sounds like I'm going to do a tongue twister. Say Saul, she yells something. All right. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, Lord, save me. So he starts to sink. He cries out, Lord, save me. Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand, caught him. You have little faith, he said. Why did you doubt? So here's Peter. He's on the water. He's doing fine. He's looking at Jesus. And then it said he saw. What he did was he suddenly began to look at not Jesus, but the trouble. He stopped looking at Jesus and started looking at there's waves. Oh, there's wind. Oh, I'm going to die. And suddenly he began to sink. It changed when he started looking at his trouble instead of looking at Jesus, instead of focusing on what Jesus wanted to do he was there with them. And so, what are you looking at? What do you look at the person next to you and say, what you looking at? Y'all are like really quiet. Yeah, what you looking at? Okay. Yeah, what are you looking at? Now, because you have trouble a lot of the times. And what we do is we look at trouble. Here we are, we're thinking about, we've got all this trouble. You know, your girlfriend dumps you, your boyfriend dumps you. Trouble, all right? And you focus hard on your trouble. You have no money. I don't know what your troubles are. I could go through all kinds of things, but we have trouble. What we need in trouble is courage. What we need is courage, but a lot of times what we have instead is fear. So how do we have courage instead of fear? Well, we've got to have faith instead of doubt. We've got to have faith instead of doubt. And the way that we get there, the way that you have that courage is you have to think about, pay attention to what your focus is on. If your focus is right, you will have faith. If your focus is wrong, you will have doubt. If your focus is right, you will have faith, which leads to courage. If your focus is wrong, you will have doubt, which leads to fear. So what are you going to focus on? Because this is going to happen, and you're going to choose then what you focus on. You see, Peter, he chose to look at the water and the waves, and he sank. And some of you have sank, right? You have sunk into your fear. You have felt that, right? You've been in the bed at night, and you just felt so miserable you couldn't sleep for hours. There's a verse in the Bible that says, cried yourself to sleep, right? I mean, you've done this. You've cried. Your bed is wet with tears, is what it said. And some of you experienced that because you focused on your trouble. So what are you going to do when you have troubles? You have to focus in the right places. Focus correctly. I want to show you this one more verse here in Hebrews. It talks about the exact same thing. It makes it so clear. It says, let us fix our eyes on Jesus. Fix your eyes. What does that mean? Focus. Focus your eyes. Fix your eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross. Notice what he did. He was going to endure the cross, so he fixed his eyes on something else. And that joy, by the way, was that he was going to have a relationship with us. And now he invites you, when you're in trouble, to fix your eyes on him so that you can get through. But you can't, look literally at Jesus. You can't call up Jesus and be like, hey, I want to meet at Brahms. I want some ice cream, and maybe we could chat for a minute because I have some trouble. And then you meet at, y'all don't talk on the phone. Would you meet at Brahms, Jesus? Okay, text him, and she shows up, and then you be like, oh, I see Jesus. I feel so much better now because Jesus is right in front of me. Okay, that would be great, but you can't do that because he's not here in the person. In fact, this is not what it's talking about. If you look at the very next verse, look what it says. Consider him. This is what I mean. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. Remember earlier it said, take heart or take courage. Same thing. Consider him. It said, look, your mind, your focus, what you think about has to be on him, and then you can have courage. Then you won't lose heart. You have to focus right. If you focus wrong, you're going to be stressed out. I've been here. When I was 25-ish, all my friends were getting married, all of them. I mean, I was a best man in multiple weddings. I was in so many weddings. I was renting tuxes all the time. And I had been single for like 7 years. I'm like, do I look uglier than I think I do? I don't understand why I can't get a date. And I felt there were times when this is what I would do. I would start to focus on this problem, this trouble, and it just seemed huge. If we start to focus on these things, it just seems huge. Am I going to be this way forever? I'm going to do this. And we focus on the wrong thing, and what we do is we get discouraged. We lose heart. We feel the trouble. Do you have a friend who is always like, their troubles look more like this, and yet they're always like, oh my gosh, this horrible thing has happened. Do you ever experience this? Okay, and they're like, oh, they're talking about the troubles. I will tell you why. Both your friend who's annoying and you and me also do this sometime, is we'll have a trouble that's something, it's not even a big deal. And like a year later, even a week later, sometimes the next day, we're like, okay, that was kind of stupid to be upset about. It's because we do this. We're like, oh, my trouble. And we focus so hard, we stare so close, it's huge, I can't see anything else. All I can see is this piece of paper. Because we got it so close, we just focus so hard on our troubles. And when you focus hard on your troubles, you get stress, you get fear, it doesn't get better, it gets worse. Now, sometimes your troubles aren't little bitty tiny things, sometimes they are big troubles, and then it's even more important that we learn to focus correctly, that we learn to look correctly. Now, the reason I decided to talk about this tonight was because, well, we've had some trouble lately. I don't know where Tracy is, but there she is. We've had some trouble lately, and I've had trouble throughout my life, and there's been times when it was overwhelming, and some of you have felt that. And I want you to know how to deal with it. So real quick, real short, I want to tell you how I focus in when I have trouble. When I have those moments when I'm laying in bed and you just can't sleep. I mean, you're dead tired, but your mind is like, okay, y'all know what I'm talking about? I'm going to show you one verse, and then I'm going to explain what I do. This is what it says. Is any of you in trouble? Yeah. He should pray, or she should pray. This is the first thing I do. Whenever I am faced with trouble, I find a place, I get alone, and I pray. Yesterday, I was in my study room, and I just got down on my knees, face down to the ground, and prayed for like an hour. Now, I'm not saying that I prayed for an hour. The reason I prayed for an hour is because that's how long it took for me to stop being stressed out, okay? You know what I'm saying? But you pray. So much of the time, what do? We got this trouble. Well, I got to text my friends. I got to post it online. I got to do this, blah, 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 blah. And our trouble doesn't get any better. We're just glorifying it. So instead, pray. Talk to God about it. Father, I need you. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know how to handle this situation. That's the first thing I do. Another thing I have done many times, especially when I was your age, I would journal. Have you ever read the Psalms before? Like in the Bible, you got Psalms, Proverbs, that. David did this all the time. That was weird. David did this all the time, right? So David would be going through a struggle in his life, and if you read it, it's like, he's like, and this person's trying to kill me, and this horrible thing, and all these people, and all this is bad, and I'm going to die, and da-da-da. But the Lord is, and then he'll just change it. And if you just start reading, you'll find them. They don't take very long. And I did this exact thing, and do this exact thing. I'll just start writing. I have this problem, and this is what's happening. And I will just begin to describe everything that's wrong. But please do not stop there. That will not help. You've only focused on the problem. Because then what I do is I'll write. But I trust that God can make this work. I trust that he's going to take care of. And I begin to write what I believe. And as I do that, what happens is I focus in on Jesus and what he wants to do. Other times what I do is I open my Bible and I try to find what it says about what's going on. The first time I can remember doing that, I was on the phone with my then girlfriend, and she told me that she had been raped. And I didn't know how to handle that. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you handle that as a friend? When then a little bit later, my best friend, I caught her cutting herself. And I was like, I mean, to me, emotionally, that's trouble. I mean, they've got trouble, but I had trouble too. And so this is what I did. I went to the Bible and said, what did you say? And I had to find out. I had to study. But you know what I found? I found that God did talk about this stuff. And I found courage. courage to help my friends, courage to get through the situations. And so when you face trouble, I want you to turn to these things instead of just being overwhelmed. You can take heart and you can win. That's why I want to tell you this tonight, because I know that you're going to have trouble, and I hate to know that you're going to feel overwhelmed and lose heart, but you can have courage. So we're going to end tonight, and if you need prayer because you have trouble, we want to pray with you. And we want to help you focus, put your heart towards the Lord, and believe that he's going to help you and give you the strength to walk through whatever trouble you face. Father, I believe tonight that you will help us through whatever trouble. You'll walk with us. You'll guide us. You'll give us victory. I pray that every person that's facing any trouble would leave tonight with courage. In Jesus' name.